Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health System's Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
Before we go ahead and get started, we lost one of our inductees last year, so we would like to take a moment of silence for Mr. John Morgan. Thank you. We'll get started. Welcome to the TPR Coaches second annual Hall of Fame. Thank you guys for coming up. We're gonna get started with Charlie Miles with the prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace and mercy that you so freely give to us. We thank you for the coaches that we are celebrating tonight. We ask that you continue to guide them and lead them, and thank you for the service that they have done in our community. We ask that you will bless tonight and allow us to continue celebrating the seeds that they have sown in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Getting started with our first Hall of Famer. This guy, when I first started coaching over there at HL, I first met him, had a great soul, just a great aura about himself. I used to always ask him, say, man, who's that guy? And they say, you don't know who that is? I say, I really don't know it. It's like, that's Mr. Arnold. And I'm like, why you say it like that? He said, he coached for many years, been a pioneer in the community. He's always there for somebody whenever they need him. I said, well, I'm going to have to speak to him one day. So I remember was coming out the weight room with the kids, and I got the chance to have a conversation with him. And he talked about his family, he talked about God, he talked about faith, but also he talked about the love for the kids. So I was like, how long you been coaching? Then when he told me how long he been coaching, I said, well, he did a whole lot. He said, Boy Scout, mentorship, whatever he needed to do to make sure these kids was on the right path. He stepped in and did that. Taking himself away from his family, he was always just that person. So without further ado, I would like to bring up Mr. Arnold Adams. What got you into coaching?
The question was, what got me into coaching? I wouldn't say it was by accident, it was by fate. I went to the convenience store to get a cold drink. I was 17 at the time. And I seen the bus full of kids headed to the game, dressed in their uniform. And they hollered out the window, our coach going offshore. We need somebody to coach us. I said, I don't know about that. So the bus driver asked me, could you come and coach them so they won't miss the game? So I decided to go. And I coached them, and they won the game, and that was the beginning of my coaching career. I was only 17. You had to be 18 to coach for TPR. But when I got to the game, I talked to a man named Mr. Von Keller, who was the field director, game director, and he told me, he said, since you was interested in coaching, I'm gonna take you under my wings, and when you make 18, you're gonna be good to go. So that was my beginning.
What is probably your most memorable moment?
Yes, what was my most memorable moment in coaching? And that's a 2-4 question. It's a good side and a downside. The downside was I was coaching one year, and I had a baseball team was 11-0. And we played against a home team that was 0-11. And all the boys knew each other. And there was a lot of bragging going on, and a lot of joking and clowning around. And I told them, I said, you know, you need to take this game serious. Oh, we're going to whoop the pants off them. They ain't won a game yet. That team beat us, shut us out. And they learned a valuable lesson about don't take anybody or any team for granted. You know, you got to play your best no matter who you face. Yeah, and one thing, you know, I would like to say, if anybody coming into coaching, I would like to give them some advice. One, make sure you teach your kids the proper way to participate in sports. It ain't all about winning. It's about practicing hard and doing your best. And good leadership is important because kids watch you, and if you don't set the right example, that's going to rub off on them. Thank you.
Mr. Bobby Arceneaux will bring up the next guy.
Before I bring up our next inductee, Gary Beeson, I want to tell you a little bit about him. Gary and I kind of came into TPR about the same time. I was 1975, he was 1977, so we kind of mirrored each other all the way through our careers, and still, both of us still work with TPR. Gary started back, like we said, let's say in the 77s and the 80s when his son started playing baseball. He was coaching the Astros back then behind Broadmoor, and in Broadmoor didn't look like it does now, but that's where the games were played, and the whole league played back there. We had a big league. Later on, as his sons got into football, he coached the West Side Gators for years until his sons were finished, and just a lot of dedication to sports back in that Broadmoor area. Something that him and his brother Tommy did way back in the 80s, they were certifying coaches back then through TPR. It was a program that Tom Detweiler had picked up on, and we certified every coach, kind of like we do now, but we were kind of ahead of the game and didn't realize it. Now it's mandatory to do all that stuff. So that was being done in the 80s by Gary and his brother Tommy. Later on, Gary became a member of District 2-3. 2-3, a growing district at the time, and he was responsible for a lot of the projects that you see these days, the Broadmoor fields that were turned around and made like a little complex out of it. The girls' complex on MLK, Lisa Park Gym was just being built in '75. The adaptive park in Summerfield, I can go on and on. Gary was instrumental in a lot of those being built back then. And he served as chairman for 2-3 for many, many years. So at this time, I'd like to bring up our inductee, Gary Beeson. I'll ask you these 3 questions, and you can speak.
Huh? I got my cheat sheet.
Okay. What got you into coaching?
Well, back in '74, which called it, had a real good friend of mine was come to me and he said, "I'm coaching a baseball team," and he said, "I'd really like you to come help me coach." And I didn't have any kids at that time old enough to play, so I said, "Sure, I'll come help you coach." So we got out there, but after 2 weeks of practice, he came to me and he said, "Well, listen, my job has changed." He said, "I can't coach no more." So I looked around and said, "Well, I guess I'm the coach." And I loved it so much that I stayed with it for about 16 years.
What advice would you give to young coaches coming up?
Well, after training coaches and working with coaches, young guys coming on board, I've always told them, it's not about you and it's not about the win. It's all about the kids. And I see a lot of coaches come on board with their sons and they'll coach till their sons are finished. And that is great. But a true coach, to me, is a coach that comes before his son gets old enough, or he coaches his son, and then after that, he stays and coaches other kids and everything. That is a true coach.
What are some of your best memories?
Best memories, I would say, I'd have to say all the friends, all the kids that you've met, and all the coaches you coach against, with, and everything, and they become your friends. And today, when you see them, all the memories that you had with them, that's the greatest memories for me. I tell you what, I'd like to thank my wife, my family, for supporting me all these years. either when I was coaching or being a supervisor for TPR, and they've always been behind me and supported. I'd like to thank Bobby Arceneaux, Mr. Greg Harding, supervisors and directors for TPR. They've always been there to help me through everything I've done and everything. And this award means a lot to me and everything. But I tell you what, if you ever coached, and a young guy comes up to you and with his son, and he says, tells his son, says, "This is my coach. He coached me back when I was young." That is the best award you could ever get.
I was going to ask the next coach to tell me about his coaching career, but I decided to do my own investigation. So I asked a few people who actually played underneath him, and they told me 3 things about him. 1, he required excellence. If you did it wrong, he made you do it over and over again until you got it done the proper way. Not as a punishment, but just until you got it the right way. 2, he was fair. He played everybody. He wanted everybody to play, no matter if you were good or no matter if you was bad. He made sure that everybody played. And 3, this comes from me. When I was a kid, that was a long time ago, I watched them coach on the air base out there, the softball complex. He actually coached my mother. I watched him coach my mother, and one day after one game, I said, "Mom, why is that guy so mean?" And she said, "He's not mean, he just wants to win," which brings me to my 3rd point. She says he always just wanted to win. So I bring up my man, Cornelious Bolden, AKA Snake. How you doing, sir?
Voice my obedience to the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. To Reverend Clark, to these young men that created this organization for us, and to everyone that came out to participate and enjoy to be with us. My career started in the 50s. And I never did teach, we're not going to win. I never did do that. Always taught my kids, we're going to win. And once you instill that in them, they're going to always want to do their best. So I pushed for that every game, every practice, I just pushed for that. And what I'm so proud of, besides ball, I'm thankful to the Almighty for allowing me to be on this planet 82 years. And I'm proud of that. I'm still in pretty good shape. We still love the coach. We have gone everywhere with the kids. Basketball was New York, New Jersey, Indiana. We went all over the place with the kids. And we made sure that they was in A1 shape to play ball. Also, we didn't allow none of the kids, Coach Lionel and I, we didn't allow none of the kids to get on the team with your pants hanging off. You couldn't do that. We didn't allow none of that. You had to be right to be on our team. And if there was a one-parent child, sometimes the child be acting up. So my job was to find out what's going on. Is there something going on in the house creating you to do this? If the man in the house is not the father, we had to find this out. So when we get all this together, we find it, we'll get the kids together with the mom or the dad and let them tell us what's going on. Also, we like for the parents to come to our first practice. We want you at all of them, but the first practice. We like you at the first practice because we want you to see what we are doing. And once you see what we are doing, you won't have no problem with what we're doing with your kids. We always told the parents, we are the coaches. You're not the coaches, we are. Now we do things our way, and that's the best way. We had some kids, matter of fact, we have a record set right today at Nicholas College with the girls softball team. We knocked 52 out of the park in 2 days. Nobody broke that record yet that I know of. But we just really love coaching. Don't care where you come from, we're gonna coach you. We're gonna coach you the best we can. When everything is over with you, we'll be happy, we're gonna be happy. And we enjoyed everything that we did with the kids. I really enjoyed it. And I just love coaching. And I would say, we played a team they call Bud Light. And they whipped us more time than we beat them. So what we had to do was settle the girls down. They was 24-0. Now we was in their way to stop them from making 25. But we had 2 of the girls came to the park late, so we had to forfeit that game. So the next year we was 24-0. 2 of them came to the park late, we lost that game. That's the only one we lost. We forfeited because we didn't have enough players. But man, coaching, I love coaching. I don't know if we have any of the girls that played with us or the boys that played with us back in the day. One here for sure. Anybody can stand up that played with us before? Would you ladies stand up? So we really did a good job. We really did a good job. And when the girl team broke up, it was about 30, some of them 35, 25, they broke it up. But we made sure that everything was right with them. And I love working with the kids. I just love playing with these kids and make them do the right thing. And also, you tell the kids, we are the coaches. You're not going to get out of line with the coaches. Also, I used to go to the school. They didn't want me to come to the school. Go to the school, find out how their grades were. Oh, no, coach, don't come. I said, yeah, I got to come because you ain't doing right. So we used to do all that. So we really enjoy working with the kids. Thank you.
This next guy, bringing him up, was one of our other Hall of Famers from last year. Will bring up one of the other guys who's going in the Hall of Fame this year, Mr. Ernest Brown, Sr.
Gives me the pleasure to introduce and present Mr. Willie Coleman. Mr. Coleman has coached, mentored, and been the general director of AAU Association for about 30 years. What most people don't know about Mr. Coleman, he's about 6'5", and he did race car driving back in the days. And I couldn't understand how he fit in the car, but he did it. When I met Willie, he was interested in sports. He was interested in kids. He was interested in helping kids get recognized for their athletics ability. If you ask some of the kids that have played basketball in Terrebonne Parish, he was instrumental in getting them scholarships, getting coaches to look at them, and he was instrumental in helping fund the different programs. I told him, I do coaching. I don't do the public relations stuff of organizing and paperwork and all of that stuff. Mr. Coleman did an outstanding job of the paperwork. He knew everybody in the gym. He knew every coach almost in America. When he made a phone call, they answered it, and he could make a recommendation for those kids to play. Introducing and presenting to you, Mr. Willie Coleman.
I want to thank y'all,
Mr. Brown said everything. He threw all the wind out the sails. But okay, so Mr. Brown took all the wind out the sails. But I got in coaching back in the early 70s over in Morgan City with Chapel Eye Sports Club. Then I transferred from there to Bayou Black Gym with the late Sidney Walsh Sr. And like Mr. Brown said, I'm more or less organized. Because on the AAU circuit, they call me GM. GM means general manager. But that's what, that's why I run the business out there. And for the kids, I teach the kids respect and give them opportunities I didn't have as a kid coming up. And bring them places and explain to them significance of the places that I bring them to. Like Mr. Brown said, I brought kids from Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, to Tijuana, Mexico, almost to Canada. And I draw what I do, and all I tell the kids, how far they make it in life, whatever they achieve, they owe me one thing, that respect. That's all I ask for the kids.
What were some of your greatest moments in coaching? You won a couple of national championships.
Well,
Brag.
greatest moments, you and I and Frank Lewis was together in 1998. We won the national championship in Florida. And it brought tears to my eyes because, got up there and cut the net down. And I told him, I said, I seen this on TV, but being a part of it, I had to cry. And then we went back and took her 10 years to win another one. And I won the Coach of the Year, I think, 3 times at the 5th District Layman's. We did that with Brother Graham Douglas, late Graham Douglas and myself. But I could sit there and talk all night, but I'm going to let Mr. Brown did what he had to do, and I appreciate everything. Thank y'all.
"46 years. As a little boy coming up, I used to come over here to West Houma Gym, East Houma Gym, and this guy here always inspired me to get into coaching. And reason being, he related to the kids very well. He mentored the kids, he picked them up, whatever he had to do, he did it. And that inspired me to get into coaching. Mr. Lionel coming into the gyms, and one thing he didn't allow, if you didn't play defense, you wasn't gonna be on the floor. His job was to see if you was gonna move your feet on the defensive end. He didn't care if you could put the ball on goal. He wanted to see if you keep your man in front of you. And from that forward, that inspired me to go to coaching. And the first thing I iterated to my kids was playing defense, because I know we wasn't gonna win no games if you couldn't play defense. So with that being said, I would like to honor Mr. Lionel Jones, Sr.
What inspires you to coach? What made you coach?
First, I want to start. God, I want to thank everybody that in here, because made it possible for me to coach. I started coaching in this gym. I started coaching
coached my son. I had two sons, Lionel Jr. and Dwayne. Those boys that was good. On down, I started coaching my grandson, two grandsons, all that. But it's everything I see is coaching. When I was coaching, I didn't coach my son. I coach all the kids, all the team. I coach the team that was here. I played against them. I coach those kids just as well. That's the life of coaching. You just don't coach one set of kids, you coach all the kids. I can't talk it like I want. So, thank you.
Mr. Lionel Jones, very soft-spoken man. This next guy who's coming up is one of those coaches where you thought somebody was mean. Oh my God, that was one of the guys I always asked him, "Why are you so mean?" And he said, "It's not being mean. It's the fact that it's called accountability and responsibility." And I didn't know at the time. I think I was 11 and 12. I didn't know those words, what it meant to me back then. And as I got older, I realized what it meant. Played on those teams, going out of state. I used to always get car sick. It seemed like the minute we got out of Louisiana, I was sick. And back then, we didn't have cell phones. You had to call home on the payphone. And if you was calling out an area code, it's a whole lot more money. And I remember this guy, Mr. Willie Coleman, and you had Nelson Kramers and Roosevelt Thomas, the one I'm bringing up. They would pull over and make sure I had a Sprite, Alka-Seltzer, call my mom, and let her know, hey, look, he's sick again. That's what he's always say. Hey, Randy Davis, he's sick again. He always said my whole name. And I'm like, it's not my fault. You know, he's like, I understand that, but he would tell my mom, no, we're gonna take care of him. He's gonna be all right, he's in good hands. And I used to always think he was mean until I realized at an age, well, I'm up to age now to realize what he was taking care of me. He made sure each one of these kids was in bed at the time they needed to be in bed. If we had a curfew, he was making sure that we was being accountable for being in the room. We thought he was being mean, but he was just being, again, accountable and responsible for us. You got 15 kids that you take on the road with you. One thing about them parents, now that I coach, one thing about them parents is where you take them off, the way they want them back. So he made sure that. I remember when we would get to the hotel and he would say, hey, look, go take a shower. I'll go take a shower. He'll come in the room with me and bring me to his room and make sure I call home. He's like, don't use that phone. You use my phone. So I would call home and let my mom them know that everything is okay. But it was the little things like that that we take for granted as players, kids, and I guess parents sometimes from these coaches. When they take these kids on the road, when they care, and they care for us like their own kids. Like I said last year about some of the other coaches, that they treated us like we were their kids, extended family, and just like he would get on you when you did something wrong, but when you did something right, he would also praise you. And that's what I took from coaching. He would always say, hey, if you're going to tell a kid when he's doing something wrong, you make sure you give him his praise when he does something right. So without further ado, I would like to bring up Roosevelt Thomas.
Mic check, mic check. So the mic is working. The one thing Randy Davis didn't know was that I knew his daddy right there. And me and his daddy come up on Lafayette Street together. So I know anything that I did him, I can tell his daddy, and his daddy say, make sure he do it right. But once again, as coaches, it was never about us. I watched the Willie Colemans. I watched the Mr. Jones. I watched the Snakes. And when I got into coaching, Ms. Mona, I'm sorry, Ms. Mona was the secretary at TPR. And the bad thing about it, I had to coach against her husband, Mr. Nelson Cram at TPR, and Mr. Malonson, and Mr. Dennis. Bo Williams has been coaching the Bucks for 20 years, so I got to coach against Bo Williams now. But our main focus was Randy Davis, Lil Sam, Sean, Cooley, and Jahari. That was our main focus. It wasn't about us. It was making sure these guys are successful in life to do what they're doing right now. Don't look at me. Man, look, thank y'all, because our goal have always been to make you become a useful citizen. Larry Ernest, I've been coaching him and vacation with him since he was 5 years old. I've been waiting for him to grow to be 6'3", 6'4", and I said, well, Ernest, it's not going to happen, brother. We're going to live just the way we are. But the biggest thing about it, he's an engineer. So you weren't going to the NBA, but you're an engineer. That's the type of thing I was looking for out of all of these guys. So I just say, man, look, thank y'all. Now, I have a grandson. Mr. Nells coached them this year. We won a national AAU tournament. So all I'm asking y'all to do, our grandchildren, man, coach them boys. So I can get in the stand and holler at you and call you everything, like I did Mr. Nells. And all Nells did was put his head down. I hear you, Roosevelt. Well, do it then, Nells, if you hear me. But look, once again, thank y'all. Thank everybody for coming out.
Bring this mic down a little bit. How y'all doing out there? How y'all doing? All right, so I'm a basketball player. I grew up a basketball player, and the coach that I'm bringing up is a football coach. Didn't know much about him. I knew his sons. I grew up with his sons. They're around my age. So I took the chance to go out there and meet him on his home turf, on his own playing field, just to learn about him, just to, catch up with him, just to see him in action. And I learned quite a few things about him. You don't have to say much, but the people around him respect him. And the coaches I've talked to about this guy since I sat with him, they all say the same thing, He's highly respected, not just as a football coach, but as a leader in our community, helping with the kids. He takes it very serious. He's there day in, day out, every year. So I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, and I'm gonna bring up my man, Mr. Harold Greg Turner. We know him as Coach Turner Vote. I know. Oh yeah, I just want to ask you.
All right. Good evening. First, I want to thank God and Big Slam for awarding me with this honor.
What got you into coaching?
What got me into coaching was, came back from the military in 1991, and I was thinking about, what I was gonna do as far as going on with my life. I had a 9-year-old, 8-year-old son at the time, and a 3-year-old son. And I look back on my time from when I first started playing down on Bayou Large, and my leaders and coaches, and pretty much was the reason why I did it was for Mr. Harold Castell, Mr. Tom Detweiler, and Mr. J.C. Stoles. And Mr. J.C. Stoles used to ride around in an old station wagon back then. And he used to just pick the kids up. Some of us didn't have a ride, even most of them did have a ride. He wanted us to ride with him so he could make sure that we were there. And the dedication that those 3 guys did made me started in 1991, and here today, I started the following year. Here today, 31 years later, I'm still doing what I do for the kids. Well, as I look back on my most memorable moments, there was 2 of them. When I first started out, it was like maybe my 2nd year in with Coach J.C. Stoles, and we was having a championship game. That was a 12-year-old championship game. We was playing Shreveport, and Mr. J.C. Stoles had got sick, and he was elderly too, and he called me on the phone. He said, "Man, Greg," he was hoarse and everything. He said, "Man, Greg, I'm gonna have to let you take over tonight because I'm not gonna be able to do it." The games were being played at night at that time on the weekend, and I was like, "Man, I don't know if I could do that." "Man, Greg, you could do it. You could do it." So we went on and we ended up beating Shreveport 12-7 to win the championship game. My other one was in 2019 when I had the honor of coaching eight-year-old national championship for Terrebonne Parish, one of the TPR with the same guys that had won. Hello? With the same guys that had won. With the same guys that had won the national championship this year with Roosevelt grandson, Houli's son on there. And we went undefeated 5-0 in the tournament, and it was an honor to do that with those kids. And here today, they're 13 now, and in junior high, and they're doing well.
All right, for our final inductee into the 2023 Hall of Fame. He didn't coach me because I'm a little older now, so he was after my time. But let me tell you a little story about my first run-in with Mr. Coy Verdant. I was coaching for Vanderbilt, and of course he's refereeing. And they had a call I didn't like. I don't know, it probably wasn't from him, but I started to have a little attitude. And I remember him running up to me, saying, "Don't say another word, put that whistle in my mouth," and looked at me. I shut up. I calmed down, but then when he left, I started talking again. But let me tell you why I could tell for the 24 years he put in, what he meant to these kids and what he did is because during that game, it was a close game. And one of our better players on the team was having a bad attitude, wasn't doing what he was being asked, he wasn't being good to his teammates. It was beginning of the 4th quarter, took him out. Didn't put him back in the game. We ended up losing that close game. After the game, Coy Verdant comes up and says, "You did the right thing. That's what you're supposed to do." And that's what we're there as coaches for, is to mold these kids and to be better people and to be better people and better players. Because that's what we get into coaching for, and that's what I learned from all my coaches like Nelson Kramer, Ernie Brown, et cetera. The list goes on. So I'd like to bring up Coy Verdant.
When I first started coaching, I was 16 years old. There was an older lady in Grand Kaya Gym. She couldn't find anybody to coach. So she let me coach with a grown-up. And ever since then, I've been coaching. And it's like when I got older, I had kids, but they didn't play ball when they was young, and I was still coaching. They grown up, still coaching. But it's just something about the kids. I like coaching kids because I'd rather see kids in gyms than being on the street. And I'm gonna answer some of the questions that he asked me. For the younger ones that's getting into coaching, the best thing to do is get together with your kids so they know where you're at, how you going with them, so that way they know what you do. Parents know what you do. You get a good vibe with the parents, you're gonna get always your parents' involvement because they know what you're doing with the kids. And the most memorable moment I ever had was I took kids to Indiana from Grand Caillou. They played in the TPR, went to Indiana. We getting ready to play a ball game. It's snowing outside. Looking for the kids. They're doing flying angels outside. They wasn't worried about playing. But I still love coaching. I don't coach in the recreation department anymore, but now I'm at the middle school and I'm still in the coaching. And it'll be 38 years now. Still at it.
Real quick. Because the wives and the fiancés and the girlfriends of these coaches, please raise your hand. Wives, fiancés, girlfriends, raise your hand. I just want to say thank y'all for putting up with them. Thank y'all for putting up with them because I know after coaching, especially after a loss, they can be a handful. So I just want to say I appreciate y'all just as much as I appreciate them.
As we move forward, let's carry the wisdom imparted by these exceptional coaches. Let's remember that success isn't solely defined by medals, but by the profound influence we leave on others' lives. Let's continue to honor these coaches, not just in grand gatherings, but in our everyday actions. And the way we inspire and uplift those around us. To our TPR Hall of Fame coaches, we extend heartfelt appreciation for your unwavering commitment, boundless passion, and belief in the potential of those you've guided. As we bid farewell, let's remember that a coach's legacy is etched in the hearts of those they've touched, and a testament to their enduring impact. Thank you all for joining us in celebrating these remarkable coaches who have enriched our lives. Let's continue to honor them by carrying the legacy forward, inspiring others as they have inspired us. Until we meet again, let the spirit of mentorship and camaraderie guide our paths. We now give you your roses. Congratulations to all the coaches.